do you think about the Estonian business client, what you have heard about it, like business-wise?
Well, first of all, thank you for being here, and appreciate it. And my wife will verify this. Wherever we go, I always tell my friends, my men friends, I said, you should go to Estonia. So they have the most beautiful women in the world there. So that's what we always say, right?
Yes, you do.
So the men are okay, but the women heads and shoulders above the men. So anyway.
Okay, but what about men?
And very smart too. I'll tell you what I do find, because I do talk to a lot of women around the world, and the women of Estonia, what I'm finding, I just spoke to women of an investment club last night.
Okay.
Very smart, they get it, and we're really thrilled to be here at the Entrepreneur School, because that's our passion, is entrepreneurship. And we were talking with Christian, who manages here, and Estonia seems to really understand the importance of entrepreneurship for growing your country. And I wish the US understood it as well, because right now the economic climate globally, but especially in the US, is a mess, and I think entrepreneurship really is the way out. So
okay.
I'm very impressed here.
Okay.
And so as far as Estonia goes, this is where Skype comes from and all this, so you will be, it doesn't make any difference anymore about the size of the country, but the size of your thoughts. And when you look at Skype, it's an international brand today. And that is how you think. So I am envious, because you're born at the best time to be alive right now. This is the biggest transition from industrial age to information age. So you're at the right time, the right age, the right mindset. So, I'm proud of you, congratulate you, and you're in the right place at the right time. But always know this, it doesn't make a difference where you're from anymore. It just makes a difference as how big your heart is and how big you think. There's a lot of problems in this world. And I know at your age, many people just want to make money. But the reason we're entrepreneurs is we can make a lot of money anyway, but is how big a problem are we solving? And we're educational entrepreneurs. We're also real estate entrepreneurs. We're also oil entrepreneurs. So the great thing about being an entrepreneur is you can be in any industry you want. But if I was a petroleum engineer, I could only be in petroleum. So the beauty of being an entrepreneur is really to solve problems and not need a paycheck. So my wife and I, we don't have paychecks. And that was the problem with school, is they always said, go to school so you can get a job, so you can get a paycheck. Well, as long as you had a paycheck, somebody owns you. When you no longer need a paycheck, you're free. And we don't need paychecks.
And just to add, when he says, the job of an entrepreneur is to solve problems. So for example, for us, the problem that we saw is there was no financial education being taught in schools. That was the problem. So that was the problem we set out to solve. And so again, yeah, if you can find a problem, there's a lot of problems. If you find the problem and you have the solution to the problem, you can be a very, very successful entrepreneur. And what's the name of the company? Was just named one of the richest men or richest people in Estonia?
TransferWise.
TransferWise. Yeah, that's very cool.
They are nice people.
Yeah,
very talented. Cool. Yeah. Okay, so Robert, your books have been a great success. And there is, we all know that, and there is many essential concepts that people should be aware of. How you would summarize some of the very important concepts in that book for some people who haven't read or don't know it so familiarly? Of course, we have read it all.
How many people have read Rich Dad, Poor Dad in this room? Okay, has anybody not read the book? Okay.
They're for sale outside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I almost never finished high school because I can't write and I don't read.
Oh.
So for me to be an author, and what I'm kind of an authority on is the the stealing of our wealth, is how is our wealth as people stolen? And it starts in the US, is how it's stolen. So only until I found something I was interested in did I really start to read and to write. Until then, I flunked out of high school twice because I can't write and I can't read. But when I found something that really angered me, and the school system, the academic system, is part of the problem, because our schools teach us nothing about money. And that's not an accident. What I started to find out in my research was that the people that control the world economy did not want you to know anything about money. So that's why when I was 9 years old, I'd raise my hand in school. I grew up in Hawaii. And I'd say, when am I going to learn about money? And the teacher says, see, most academics, like my poor dad, PhD, very smart man, very good man, he says, we don't teach about money at school. So I'm 9 years old, I'm going, well, why am I in school then? And they said, so you can get a job. And I said, but I don't want a job. I just want to be rich. And so then as I got older, I kept asking myself that question. I said, how come we don't learn anything about money? And the more I started to research it, the worse it got. So today, some of the biggest crooks in America are named George Bush, Barack Obama, Ben Bernanke, Alan Greenspan. They're all part of the people that run the world economy. So that's what I found out. And once I found that out, then Kim and I became entrepreneurs in education. But we had to stay outside the school system, because in America, we have a KGB also, So we had to stay away from the schools. So the story of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, for those that haven't read the book, is my poor dad was a PhD, went to Stanford, Chicago, Northwestern. And he was my poor dad because he was a school teacher. He knew nothing about money. Very smart man, good man, honest man. And then my rich dad never went to school. And he became an entrepreneur because he had to, because his father died. And I found that most entrepreneurs lost their father. It's kind of a common trait. So they have to take over the family business early. And that's what makes them good, because they have to be good. And so Rich Dad, Poor Dad is a story of two fathers, very good men, one an employee, one an entrepreneur, tells their two sons, my best friend and I, about money. So neither of them told me what to do. They just told me why they did what they did. And so my poor dad, being an academic, he wanted security, job security, steady paycheck. And what my rich dad wanted was freedom. I want my freedom. And see, all of you right now, you're going for probably the greatest human value, which is your freedom to go throughout the world and do business. Hopefully you'll be honest, because there's a lot of crooks out there, lots of crooks, lots of dishonest people. So if you can remember that, that's what you're here for. It's for your freedom. It's also for your country. I do it for my country also, but I also do it for the world. When people ask me who I work for, I said I work for everybody. I work for the freedom of everybody. So that's that's what drives me on.
Thank you.
Well, I'll just say this. We all have defining moments, and people often ask, how did I get into entrepreneurship? And I'll just give a little personal story. I got into entrepreneurship because when my dad was 50 years old, he was an executive at a printing company in a place called Portland, Oregon. And he was vying to become president, and he was head of sales. Okay? The other gentleman who was vying to be president was head of accounting. So if you're in business, you're going to learn that accounting and sales oftentimes clash. Different values, different motivations. So the gentleman who was head of accounting got to be president and fired my father. So at the age of 50, my father was out of work, lost his job. And I remember coming home. I was living in Hawaii at the time, and I came home, and they said, you know, Dad's been fired. And I was so angry. And I remember going to his office, and he was packing up his things at his office. It was late one night. We had gone out to dinner. He came back. He was packing up things, and I was just so angry. And I vowed at that moment, I will never, ever, ever let anybody control my life like that. Because here he was, the age of 50, now no income, nothing. And that was the moment I said, I'm going to go create my own future. And I'm going to become an entrepreneur, and I'm going to create my own business. Because I never wanted to lose that kind of control ever. So I think we all have those defining moments, and it's just recognizing them and taking advantage of them.
Okay, thank you. Kim, actually in Estonia we have lots of positive discussion about woman leadership, and you have been inspiration for lots of women, and you're author of Rich Woman. And what do you think, why women should be financially educated to fulfill their dreams? And what specific value can they bring into the business specific?
Oh, well, we all know women are smarter than men when it comes to money.
Thank you very much.
Right?
And let me say something. She didn't marry me for my money, because when she met me, I had lost my third business. I was in between businesses. So I didn't have any money at all when she met me. And we struggled for years to build the next business. So a lot of people think she may have married me for my money, but I didn't have any. And I wouldn't be here without her, because she really is a very smart, ambitious woman, lots of courage. And we were homeless for a while. We just kept going. We've been in lawsuits, you know, people trying to steal our money, and we just stayed tight. And, you know, not fight, but never lose sight of what we're doing. Because being an entrepreneur is a very rough road, and the more successful you become, sometimes it becomes harder. And that's why I'm very proud of her, and you know, she didn't marry me for my money. That's what I'm glad.
Well, thanks. We're a good team. We came together with similar values and similar dreams. Matter of fact, not only did he not have any money, he was $750,000 in debt.
Well,
forgot that little fact, sweetheart. We celebrated when we hit zero. We celebrated. That was a good thing. But for women, you know, I wrote Rich Woman because we would travel the world and talk about, and Robert would do big events, and we'd talk about the rich dad philosophy, and no matter what city I was in, I would get up on stage and I would talk for a few minutes to women about money, because for most of us, especially my age, younger women, it's changing, and I'm very excited about this. But for most women my age and younger, most of us have not been expected to be the breadwinner, to be the money maker, to really know much about money, much less investing. And so we're actually taught at an early age, if you think about some of the games and the dolls and things, we're actually taught to be dependent on somebody else for our financial well-being. Maybe a husband, a parent, a boss, or a government. And I've seen just too many. So when I traveled the world and I'd go to cities like Tallinn or London or Johannesburg or Sydney, Australia, I'd always be surrounded by women with the same issues, the same questions. And it became very, very clear that there really is a need for women to take charge, especially in this economy and what's happening globally, to take charge, to take control of their own lives. I've seen too many women, as they get older, the husband leaves, the husband passes away, something happens, she's left on her own, she has no clue about money, then Mr. or Mrs. Helper, called financial advisor, comes along and says, I can help you, and next thing you know, she's broke. So money really has it can free you, and it can also enslave you. And I'm all about women being free and having control and having the things that they want in their life. Okay. That's why I wrote the book.
Thank you. So, of course, we all want to stay positive over here. But in 2003, Robert, you published a book called Rich Dad Prophecy. And you predicted over there that in 2016, gonna be big financial crisis. So What is going to happen and why?
A crisis is, in Chinese, is danger plus opportunity. So the reason you're an entrepreneur is because you want opportunity. So I don't think it's a bad thing. What is ending is the industrial age. It's over. Unfortunately, industrial age leaders like Clinton and Bush and Putin, they're still in power. And they'll still be in power, but they will be losing power. So, jeez. Guys, don't get married. It's much easier, okay?
Hey.
But there's there was too much corruption in the world today, too much greed. In America, there's lawsuits because this guy didn't get his $200 million paycheck. You know, give me a break. And so in my research, what I found out since 1983, that America is no longer a democracy. America is now called a kleptocracy. And a kleptocracy is where the leaders steal from you. You know, it's almost communism, but it's worse in that our guys like Obama and Bernanke, they're just there to steal. They're not there to help you. And so what I found out in my research, they just kept stealing from us. And now there's been two defining dates. Number one was 1971 when Nixon, one of the biggest crooks of all, took us off the gold standard. Now the dollar at that time was gold all over the world. So when Nixon defaulted on the gold standard in 1971, that allowed my government to print money. And so now we're printing in the trillions now. We're not just printing in the billions or the millions, it's in the trillions. And the people at the very top, like the Federal Reserve Bank, my congressmen, my senators are just stealing. And Wall Street is stealing. But so is the school system, stealing. They just don't know better because they went to school and they got jobs. So they don't know how to make money, so they steal money. So the reason there's going to be a tragic crash is because there is a perfect storm. All of these things are gathering. You read the book, one of the biggest things is terrorism. And you have ISIS right now. This is the first time in history, I was a pilot in Vietnam. This is the first time in history US planes are flying in the same airspace with Russian planes. We're going to fight. And then you're going to see stuff break out. But it's not going to be a world war. It's going to be a terrorist war. It's cyber terrorist. So cyber terrorist means that the industrial age cannot fight cyber war, as you guys know. You cannot defend against cyber terrorism. So it's over. And the stock market is propped up. Every time the stock market crashes, the Federal Reserve Bank throws money into it to keep it up. So there's one more fact that I base my prediction on, is that my generation, it's called the baby boom generation, 1946 to 1964, we're the first generation that's on a thing called the 401k. It's the first generation that is living on the stock market. So what they're afraid of is when the stock market crashes, my generation, the baby boom generation, will be homeless. So they keep propping it up, because the primary reason the US government created the 401k was for Wall Street to steal our money. And so once I understood all that, that was in '83 I began to understand it. I met Kim in '84 and I said, I can no longer stay quiet and I'm going to speak out. So in '84 I was a manufacturer. I had a company in the rock and roll business. I was manufacturing for old bands called Duran Duran, Iron Maiden, The Police, stuff like that. And I just couldn't be an entrepreneur making money anymore. And then I became an entrepreneur in education. And so since '84, we've been traveling the world. We don't have paychecks. We just work and teach. We create we have a cash flow game here?
Yeah, we have it over there.
So we're entrepreneurs in education, and we teach all over the world. How many people have played this game here? Good. Please play this game. Do you know why? Because the way we learn is by games. Very few people can learn via lecture like this. We learn by doing. Like you cannot learn to play football or soccer without playing. You cannot learn to walk without walking. But in school, they tell you to memorize the answer. And that's why we have people like Obama and Bernanke and Clinton and Bush, a bunch of crooks. You know, they kleptocracy, they steal, steal, steal. So can you imagine? That guy's upset because he didn't get his $200 million bonus. What the heck are you going with $200 million a year? And they're upset. So this market crashes that you've been having, they're not accidents. Market crashes are part of the business plan of Wall Street. If you understand that, then you'll understand the economy. And it's not just, so now the euro is in trouble. The prediction is the euro will be gone in a few years. The yen is in trouble. The yuan and the renminbi is in trouble. Because back in 1971, Nixon took us off the gold standard. And cash is trash now. It's not worth anything. So at Rich Dad, we say your knowledge is everything right now. It's more valuable than money. So that's why I'm glad you guys are here. The last thing is that the next big date was 2008. So 2008, guys named Bernanke and Paulson. Paulson works for a company called Goldman Sachs. They bailed out the richest guys in the world. They didn't have to. But now the world's even worse shape because a few Americans are ripping everybody off. Bush, Bernanke, Paulson, Greenspan. So that's why we write and speak. That's why we have these games here to teach you what they think you should. They don't want you to know this because then you'll give them their money, your money. In America, everybody in retirement is giving it to Wall Street. I'm going, that's really stupid. Why would you give it to the guy stealing from you? Oh, we're supposed to do that. Okay?
That's why financial education is so important, because so many people are blindly turning their money over and have no idea what they're turning it over to, who they are, or where it's going. And these 401ks are, it's a fund, like a fund of funds. It's like a mutual fund, basically, but set up as a retirement plan.
A 401k is a government institution.
Yes. So if you ask people, what's in your 401k? They've been putting money into this 401k every year, day after day after day. Well, what's in your 401k? I have no idea. They don't know what it's invested in. They don't know where its money's going. So we created the cash flow game because people kept asking Robert and I in 1994, we retired. We were financially free. And people thought, oh, you must have millions and millions of dollars. And we're like, no, no. We have, very simply, $10,000 a month coming in every month. This is 1994 from our investments in cash flow. And mostly at that point, it was real estate. But the beauty was we had $10,000 coming in every month, but our living expenses were only $3,000.
And we pay no tax on that legally.
Yes. So at that point, we were financially free. We could finally say, ask ourselves, what is it we really want to do in the world? So everybody kept asking us, how did you do it? How did you do it? How did you do it? And instead of going around the world lecturing, we created a board game to make it fun so that people can teach people. We don't have to be teaching people, which I also just want to make the point, as you go out there and you're being entrepreneurs and all of this, be careful who you take your advice from, or be wise about who you take your advice from, because a lot of people who are giving advice aren't really practicing what they preach. So we have a team of advisors we call Rich Dad Advisors. They're all people like in real estate. Kenny McElroy, he does real estate every single day. Our tax advisor is advising people on taxes every single day. So one of the lessons I've learned is I really want to learn from people who are doing what it is I want to do, not just talking about it. It was a lesson I learned, sometimes the hard way. And that's sometimes how we learn our lessons.
Okay, thank you. So I would continue with students' questions, and first one question from online, and then we carry on with offline and combine. How important is personal aspect?
The personal aspect.
yeah, personal aspect, if business is run by couple?
Being an entrepreneur is a personal development program. You have to become a better person. If you're not a better person, you become a crook. And so just let me say something. The number one aspect of being a couple here is that it makes our marriage stronger. Other people, they have such bad marriages that it's best they don't be business partners. You know, the marriage is dead a long time ago. So our business keeps us alive. We study together, we work together, we have our own friends. Which is something I want to pass on to you, is one of the reasons, you know, education is very, very important, but it's how you're taught that keeps you poor. In other words, in school, I always wanted to be helped. You know, I wanted to cooperate at test time. But in school, if you cooperate, it's called cheating. And so one of the things that you have to learn when you leave school is how do you cooperate? How do you get along with another human being? Because in school, you're taught to be the number one. That's it. So number one is when you leave the school and you start your business, what you're looking for is your team. So what Kim is talking about is the reason we win. You know, there's doctors and lawyers, and the reason we make more money than they do and pay less tax is because we operate as a team. And it starts with this team here. I have many friends, they hate their wives. You know, if it wasn't for the kids, they'd be gone. We all know that. You grow up. So this is where the team starts. And can we get along mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually? Can we get along? Can we grow together? Most couples grow apart. That's the biggest problem there, that it falls apart. Secondly, what Kim is talking about here is that on our team are accountants, attorneys, guys who can raise capital. We have oil guys. We have a different set of team. They're all entrepreneurs. That's the difference. So your team is crucial. And in school, they teach you to be the smartest person. Well, I don't have to be the smartest person. I was a stupid kid in school. You know, I'll probably never get admitted here. I didn't know anything. So number two is if you can cooperate, then you put together your team. Number three is you will make mistakes. You see, in school, they punish you for making mistakes. How in the world can you learn if you don't make mistakes? So personal development is when you make a mistake, the first person you beat up is yourself. Second person you beat up is your wife or husband, because it's so painful. So if you're going to be an entrepreneur, it's important you learn how to make mistakes and learn from them. And four is that you must understand taxes. If you just make money, you're going to get taxed to death. Okay? It doesn't make any sense to make money. If you're at Rich Dad, Poor Dad, lesson one is the rich don't work for money. What we do is we create assets. So this game is an asset, our books are assets, our real estate are assets, our oil wells are assets. We have thousands of people working for us and all this because we create jobs. That's our objective, not make money. But most people just want to make money, and they become crooks. They become Bush, Obama, Bernanke, Paulson, you know, these crooks out there. And those are the richest guys, they're a bunch of crooks. So where we go and we speak, we start here, you know. Like I said, there's a lot of beautiful women out there, but I don't cheat on my wife, she doesn't cheat on me. That's where it starts. We study together. We read the same books together. It's a marriage, it's a business partnership, and we're best friends. You know, we're in London to watch rugby. It's my sport, our sport. So that's very, very important, but it starts with this unit here. So I'll say it again, is that you have to learn how to cooperate. That's very hard because so many people do not know how to cooperate. Like, you know, in business, there's golfers, and they play by themselves. There's also guys like rugby players or football players or soccer players. They play as a team. My objective was to play as a team because I was never the smartest guy. Okay, so I was a rower, and we played rugby. We're team guys. So the next development is developing your team. Then you have employees beneath that. And that's all personal development. Most entrepreneurs leave. They become what they call non-employee businesses, one-man shows, because that's what they're taught to do in school. You're supposed to be the smartest person. Look, in real life, you don't have to be the smartest person, but you have to have smart people, honest people, trustworthy people around you. Okay, that's what makes you rich. If you have that, you have money. But if you're a crook, your wife's a whore, your business partners are bastards.
We don't have no beeps.
You know, I mean, guys, you guys are old enough. You know what I'm talking about here. So that's where it starts. It starts here. Okay. And when Kim and I got married, it was because, number one, she's my friend. We play together. We spend countless hours together. Can you imagine that? My friend can't spend 5 minutes with his wife. She's a bitch. You know, she can't stand her.
Well, our very first, I mean, you really need, we'll tell them. Okay, are you done with that? Our very first date is back in 1984. We've been together a long time.
I was born in 84.
Oh, thanks for dating me.
Oh, sorry.
Back then, our very first date, Robert said, "What do you want to do with your life?" And I had been an employee. I'd been fired not once but twice from my first job out of college because my boss wanted me to learn a job. I wanted to learn the business. So I wasn't a very good employee. I said, I want my own business. And Robert said, well, I've started several and all my friends are entrepreneurs. And I'm like, this is where I need to be. So we were very aligned in business. And when you talk about entrepreneurship and school, I'm really happy to see what's happening here. Because as Christian said, you're hearing about entrepreneurship in every aspect of the classes that you're taking. They're inspiring this entrepreneur spark, which is very important because in most schools, what people are taught is totally opposite of what it takes to be an entrepreneur. Make mistakes, cooperate, build a team. It's not about getting the right answer. It's not about doing it on your own. It's opposite. And when the young woman asked about relationships... And
fail fast, fail often,
make a lot of mistakes. It's painful to make a mistake, but if you can... the biggest mistakes I've made have led to my greatest successes, as long as I take that and learn from it. But as the woman was asking about relationships, I'll just say this. I certainly don't recommend everybody go into business with their significant other. That would be a disaster. I mean, there's some people that are not meant to be business partners. And for us, we made that decision early on. I knew early on I wanted my life partner to be my business partner. I knew that because I've seen so many couples as they get older, less and less to talk about. The kids leave school, they have less and less fun, they grow apart, and we wanted to grow together. So the relationship part was very important. I'll also say this, if you're in a relationship, if you're with a significant other and you are taking this path of entrepreneurship, which in my opinion is like the fast track to personal development, because stuff comes at you every single day, you got to deal with it. If your significant other, if your spouse does not support your entrepreneurial dreams, chances are you're not going to make it. That's the bottom line. They don't have to be your partner, but there needs to be that support because the road to entrepreneurship is not an easy road. It's a fantastic road as you go, but you're going to hit a lot of obstacles. You're going to make a lot of mistakes. You're going to fall down, and you're going to need that support to keep going. So I just want to say that about relationships.
Okay, so I would take one offline question. In Estonia, everything is online or offline. Okay, I would take one offline question. Could we get the mic? Yeah. So raise your hands if you are ready for a question from the crowd. Or everything has been said already. Okay, we have a question over there, gentleman over there.
Hello. You brought up many times the fact that in the USA, the government steals from citizens. But could you please give some examples how that is happening or what the government does to take money away from citizens? Thank you.
Yeah, I already told you the two biggest ones. There are two major dates. Okay, 1971, August 15th. President Nixon took the US dollar off the gold standard. That was a license to print money. And when you print money, it makes the poor middle class poor. It also raises taxes on people because you'll work harder and you want more money. And the more money you make, the higher tax you pay. It was all part of the plan. Number two is in September 2008, they bailed out the richest guys in the world. So they took taxpayer money and gave trillions of dollars to the richest guys. It's called a bailout in English. And when you read the business plans of banks, a bailout is part of the plan. So what it is that when you save money and you put in your retirement plan, all of that money goes to the banks. Now, the banks have to do something with that money. So I like my bank. They give me millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, okay? But the difference is if you're the richest guys and you lose billions, the taxpayer bails you out. So in a true capitalist society, when I fail, I fail. I declare bankruptcy. But for the very rich, when they fail, they take taxpayer money and give it to them. This is the policy of the United States, but it's also the policy through governments throughout the world. I don't know about Estonia.
We have a pension system where you have to pay 2% of your
I'm not
income.
talking about that. I'm talking about, are your leaders honest?
Okay.
And I haven't met an honest leader yet, so you know that you might have Estonia. I met some politicians last night. They look like honest people, but you never know. You know, I was just in South Africa. This guy Mandela, you know, Nelson Mandela is one of the greatest people in history, but he turned his legacy over to this guy called Zuma. And now the biggest crooks in South Africa are all government bureaucrats. They're just, the reason you want a government job is so you can steal money. It's the same as the United States. They just want a government job so they can get a steady paycheck and steal your money. So when you look at the IMF and the World Bank and all that, most of the people running the global system are from Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs is a hedge fund. When Goldman Sachs loses money, we bail them out. It is so dishonest, it makes me sick. Whereas you'll go out there and if you make a mistake, you'll fail. But if you're rich, they take taxpayer money. So that's why the two examples, if you understand that, 1971, 2008. And the other way they steal your money is they tell you to invest for the long term in the stock market. You know how stupid that is? Today we have HFT, high frequency trading. So they tell my generation to put your money in there for 40 years. Today, guys your age are coming in microseconds. You know, you're in and out of that market in a microsecond. That's a millionth of a second. And my generation's in there for 40 years. God, do you know, how do you spell stupid? S-T-U-P-I-D. Now, on the other side of it, I love those guys who are crooks, because that's where we get our money from. See, a banker doesn't know what to do with the money. They just know how to steal it. Then they have to pass it on to an entrepreneur. So in 2015, this year, we borrowed $300 million. It's impossible for the average person to work for $300 million, but you can borrow it. So the other thing is, entrepreneur must know about debt, and they must know how to raise capital. So I don't hate my bankers. I don't hate those crooks. I'm just not a crook. I don't play their game. Does that make sense, you guys here?
And
there's a lot of crooks out there, a lot of dishonest people.
And if I can add just one thing, because this really disturbed me greatly, to answer another way to answer your question of how they steal. When Robert's talking about 2008, do you remember hearing when Lehman Brothers came down, the bank? Okay, so Lehman Brothers failed, so the next company that was going to fail was called IAG, little company, AIG, little company, AIG. And so what they did is how they stole money is they told the American people, oh my goodness, if AIG fails, there's going to be this domino effect and the markets are going to crash and your individual shareholder, you're going to lose all this money.
Oh, they said the banking system was shut down.
They said it was shut down. It's going to be terrible for you, the individual American citizen. It's going to be havoc. It's going to be terrible. It's going to be a catastrophe. And so that's how they got the buy-in from the American people to print all this money. Well, the facts are now coming out that there was no banking crisis. It did not exist. There was not going to be a domino effect.
No, there were certain big banks that were going to fail.
Which would have been a good thing.
It would have been good.
It would have been good. Some CEOs were going to, people were going to lose their jobs. Traders weren't going to get their bonuses, and CEOs were going to have to take a cut and pay in the Wall Street world and banking world. And so they didn't want that to happen. So this is one way that they lied to get you to agree that this printing of money is a good thing. It was not a banking crisis. It wasn't going to take out the whole banking system. It was not going to take down Wall Street.
A kleptocracy is when your richest people, your most powerful people, steal from the people. That's what America is today. We're no longer a democracy. So I realized this back in the 70s. I realized something was wrong. In America today, there's two kinds of fares. There's welfare and warfare. War is very profitable. That's why we're at war. That's why we actually kill people to make money. I was part of that. I was a Marine pilot in Vietnam. And one day I said, this is in 1972, I said, why am I here? Why am I shooting these people? I don't dislike them. Why am I killing them? It's because we make a lot of money killing people. Okay? And America has the audacity to talk about the KGB. We have the CIA. Just as bad. Right now, America is complaining that China is stopping short selling in the market. Well, America does the same thing. See, America is a propaganda machine, just like you have a propaganda machine. So that's why I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm saying you have to be smarter to understand how it's played. The other thing is you will deal with a lot of bad people out there. I deal with them every day. They're dishonest, they're called attorneys. They're crooked, they're nasty, but you got to learn how to deal with them. It's not a matter of hiding. You can hide as an employee, but it's really hard to hide as an entrepreneur. Your greatest skill is how you deal with different people, and it starts with your husband or your wife or your kids. That's where it starts, okay?
Okay, thank you. So we have one online question. So in globalizing world, we have cultural conflicts. So what are the threats for the future business of cultural conflicts?
Cultural conflicts.
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to go war. We're already at war, you guys. What's happening is that, 10,000 years ago, human beings went all over the world. They lived in isolation. They lived in Estonia, they lived in Asia, they lived here. But now everybody's coming together. And so you have different cultures meeting different cultures. That's why hate is going up and all this. When you add money to the problem, poor people, it's even worse. So, the migrations out of Syria and all this, the migrations coming, we had it out of Cuba, in Myanmar, where we're going next week. Their migrations are all over right now. So we're going to learn how to deal with people, or we're going to kill each other. We'll exterminate each other. So that's why when Kim and I speak to entrepreneurs, I know some of you will be crooks. It's national averages. And some of you will be rich, and some of you will fail. And some of you will say, well, maybe I could solve this problem. Like, if we don't solve our environmental problems pretty soon, we're out of business anyway. You know what I mean? We're running out of fish. They want more nuclear energy. The trouble is, it takes 30,000 years for nuclear energy to get cool again. So, you know, we have to have solar or other types of energy. You know, without energy, we don't grow as a civilization. So those are the problems I encourage entrepreneurs to solve. For Kim and I, it's education. The trouble is, there's very few schools like you guys. You know, I'm honored to be here. You guys are fortunate to be here. You know, thank you for paying to be here. I know that you're going socialists, where you get free education. The trouble with free education, it's free. You know? No, but you learn.
Get what you pay for.
You learn a bad thing, that the government should take care of you. See, I'm honored that you guys are here. I'm honored to be here. That's what makes you entrepreneurs. You want things for free, you should go work for the government. Okay?
Do you want to add something?
No, I think that one of the biggest takeaways is to ask yourself, is there something in your soul and in your spirit and in your heart that upsets you? What is the problem that upsets you the most, and can you take on that problem as an entrepreneur? Can you solve that problem as an entrepreneur? Because the greatest entrepreneurs take on the biggest problems. And if I can just say one thing to the women, is that there's some statistics in the US, and I find that statistics are typically, the numbers might be different, but the trends are the same in most major countries. And the statistic is this, is that women-owned businesses in the US is the fastest growing segment in the world of business, women-owned businesses. Yet 68% of these women-owned businesses make less than $24,000 a year. So they don't have big aspirations. Nothing wrong with $24,000 a year. But the question is, what are you building? How big do you want your business to be? What's your plan? And the second statistic is this: of these women-owned businesses, 90% of them, of the women-owned businesses, 90% of them have one employee, her. So she's small business, she's making enough money to survive, but the question I would put forth, the challenge or the task I would task the women with is, how big do you want your business to be? What kind of a statement do you want? What kind of problem do you want to solve? Because we need strong women leaders out there right now. We need strong women role models. And I really think we can make it in the entrepreneurial and business world with women. Men too, but that's just my message for women. Thank you.
Thanks. So let's take one offline question. We have few questions more to go. Do we have an offline question? Please raise your hand. We have gentlemen in the 5th row, I think.
Hey, do you have some kind of top 3 or 5 advices for 2015 startups?
Oh, that's a good one. I would like to hear about it myself as well. Do you have any top advices for a startup which is started in 2015 for startup companies? Like at this moment, where should they look?
Same answer. You better look at what problems you want to solve. If you're just here just to make money, you're a whore like most people. You know.
Okay. So no money.
No.
What,
look.
well,
wait. Please hear me.
That's a good point.
Once you know how to make money, you can do anything you like. You see, what Kim said is that we became educational entrepreneurs after we made our money. But once you learn how to make money, you can solve any problem you want. Like, you know, those guys a lot of people doing great work. Like, you know, you have a lot of water up here. So you have fisheries and things like this that actually feed the people. That's what solving problems mean. Now, every time you solve a problem, it causes another problem called pollution. So the big problem with farm-raised salmon is that it creates pollution. Well, that's another problem to be solved. So that when you look at, I have to solve a problem, there's opportunity everywhere. But unfortunately, that question comes from a point of view is, how do I make money? And it's not, and I know it's a legitimate question because I was there at one time. But once I knew how to make money, I said, well, what problem do I want to solve? You know, when Kim says, well, $24,000, we make that in a minute. Once you know how to make money, it's easy. But not knowing how to do it, that's when it's hard. And that's why I'll go back to the tenants again. The trouble with schools, they punish you for making mistakes. Look, you're making $24,000 a year, that's a mistake. You know, the mistake is you haven't made enough mistakes yet. You're playing it too tight. The second thing is that if they're one-person shows, it's because they went to school. And if you help somebody in school, it's called cheating. You know, so that's why most attorneys and accountants are just one-man shows. They're a bunch of crooks because they think they have to take your money. They're supposed to help me make money. So when I meet accountants and attorneys, a lot of them are just disgusting people, you know, but you got to have them. So that's the next point. You got to learn to deal with disgusting people, you know, and crooks and conmen and scum. And then you have to deal with your customers, crooks, conmen, and scum. That's why it's a personal development
There are some
program.
good people out there too. I just want to say.
But how many people know what I'm talking about right now? You got to deal with people. In this classroom, I know there's people you like, and there's people you shoot tomorrow morning if you could. You know what I mean? That's being human beings. But you learn to deal with it. You see, being an entrepreneur means you got to deal with people. If you're an employee, you can hide in a little room and just be by yourself. Okay? You can do that too with online trading, you know. You can be an entrepreneur on this, you know. You don't have to deal with people. I have people who hate people, but they're very good here. All they want to do is sell them something. How many people know people, all they care about is selling somebody something, you know? Well, that's business. And that's a choice you make. And that's why I say out of this room, you know, most people will fail. That's good. Because when you fail, you'll find out if you're an entrepreneur or not. Will you stand back up? Most people cannot stand back up. Because they're taught in school, if you make a mistake, you're stupid. So understand, everything is opposite between employee and entrepreneur. And our schools train people to be employees. Don't make mistakes, don't cheat, you know all the right answers. I don't know much, but I hang out with smart people. That's the difference. You are who you hang out with, okay?
There was a study done, and this was a study done on centenarians, people that lived over 100, and they were looking for what were the common denominators that these people had. And the three common denominators, I think, are the three common denominators for successful entrepreneurs as well. And the first was they had a sense of purpose. You know, Robert and I, when we talk about, you know, what's the problem you want to solve, we never, and we love money, and you gotta your business has got to make money, or you're out of business. Yet our motivation was never, in all the businesses we've started, our motivation was never to make money. There was always another motivation. If we did a good job, then the money's going to come in. The money was our scorecard. Are we doing a good job or not? So one was a sense of purpose. Second was a sense of optimism. They were optimistic, realistic but optimistic. And number three was resiliency, how well you come back from a setback. And whether you like Donald Trump or not, Robert wrote a couple books with Donald Trump. And he tells the story of how people, one of the most important things is coming back from that setback. And the greatest entrepreneurs are the ones that come back strong from setbacks. If you have a setback, if you have a problem that happens and it wipes you out and you're on the floor, do you stay on the floor or do you get back up? And those, to me, those are the three great denominators of what makes a successful entrepreneur.
Okay.
The last thing is a thing called betrayal. We have had business partners cheat us. I tell you, there's nothing worse.
That's a big setback.
You know, because I'm a former Marine. I kill people, you know, but I can't kill them. So you just have to walk away. You cannot do, don't do anything illegal. Don't do anything stupid. But I'm trying to be as forthright with you as you can be, just not even a one-man show, just this and this, and you can be an entrepreneur. It's no big deal being an entrepreneur. To be a rich, successful entrepreneur that changes the world, that's different. Okay? Those are different values. Most entrepreneurs are whores. That's the problem. They'll do anything. No, they are. They'll just anything to make a buck. You know, and that's fine because those people are people. But we're here to talk to the probably 10% of you who say, I think I want to make a difference in this world. That's important. But in the meantime, you have to get the skill set so you're able to do that. So it really makes not a difference what business you're in, but are you learning from that business? So my first business was the first nylon and Velcro surfer wallet business. I hate surfer wallets. You don't have to love your product. You just have to love learning. And then after that one went in the toilet, then I had to go and I went into rock and roll. And that's when I was in the rock and roll business. And that was fun. Sex, drugs, rock and roll, and women, you know. Then I met Kim. It was over. But you know what I'm saying? So the most important thing about being an entrepreneur is to learn. Every day you're learning, reading books, studying, hanging out with smart people that want to teach, work with you, and dealing with people. The best education you'll get is from crooks, scumbags, and bastards. Okay? That's when you'll find out who you are. Just don't join them. Okay?
Thank you. And we have one last online question. This is going to be a quick one. Is Pille Juhkov over here? Okay. Pille has asked a very nice question. As you are financially free, what motivates you wake up in the morning and how you see the world in 20 years?
There's problems to solve. You know, we're educators. I'm honored to be at this school. What Christian told me about the school, I would come to this school. Okay, because it's teaching, in my opinion, the values of being an entrepreneur. You're not looking for something for free. That's why we have welfare in America. So what gets me up is I hated school. I really hated school. I graduated, I have a Bachelor of Science degree. I'm a naval architect. I can design ships. Woo. And I can fly planes. I flew for the Marine Corps. You don't want me flying for Finnair, okay, I'll tell you. And so I knew I had to be an entrepreneur because I just don't want to be an employee. So to come and speak to young people like you, especially at this time in history, is an honor for me. And I trust we've passed on some wisdom, not knowledge. A lot of people want answers. Go to school. Okay? All I want to do is inspire you to keep learning and be a good person and solve problems. Work cooperatively. Find a great team. Learn from your mistakes. Okay? Be honest. You make a mistake, be honest about it. Don't be like Bill Clinton, our president. You know, I didn't have sex. She had sex, but I didn't have sex. You know what I mean? What a liar that guy is. And now his wife's going to run for office. Oh, my God, you know. We don't need any more liars out there. Okay? So that's why we do what we do. We get up, come to speak to people, young people like you. It's an honor. So I'm glad we're here.
And we have a saying that either you're growing or you're dying. And I think retirement is the biggest myth of all because I see too many people, they retire and then they stop learning, they stop growing. And as soon as that retirement happens, you see this decline happening. You see it in their body, you see it in their minds, it happens. So our plan is to keep growing every day, and we do that by learning, we do that by getting out and talking with people like you. We do that by the work that we do inspires us, and you inspire us. So we really appreciate you having us here because this is what keeps us going.
The last thing I'll say is this, is who are your heroes? You know, like my heroes are the guys like Henry Ford, Walt Disney, Steve Jobs, this guy Elon Musk.
Richard Branson.
That's when you find out who you're going to be. You know, if my hero was Kim Kardashian, you know, or
you and I would be in different places.
Or what's his name, Caitlin, or was it Bruce? You know what I mean? Give me a break. And that's the freedom of our world today. You can be Caitlin, or you can be Bruce. Which one do you want to be? You know. So a lot of who you are is reflected by who you look up to. And I look up to Mandela. He did courageous things, but it turned into scumbags called Zuma. You know. So that's. If I inspire you to that, never lose sight of your heroes. You know, you want to be like them. You don't be them, be like them. What qualities did you like about them? And they always have flaws. So just look at the qualities you love about them. Everybody has flaws. Got that? And inspire others.
Okay, it seems like we're done.
Thank you very much.
Thank
So-
you.
One last question back there.
Okay, if we can take it, of course.
It's an honor to be here, you guys.
Okay, thank you.
Hi. As you mentioned a couple of times, American presidents, and you have written a book along with Donald Trump. What do you think? Would he become a great president?
That's a good question. I like that question.
Trump is a great man. He's my friend. His kids are great kids. You know, Don, Eric, and Ivanka. Ivanka is probably the strongest of the kids. So they're a great family. I'm not political. I'm not Republican or Democrat. I'm also not very religious. You want to be Christian, Muslim, Jew, Buddhist, it's up to you. I don't get into those fights. But when I look at the person running for office, you have to ask yourself, what problems are we facing today as a world? Not just the US. What problems do we face? And the problems I see, I think there's only one candidate, and that's Donald Trump, because our problems are economic problems and weakness problems. And Donald Trump is a tough guy. I've dealt with him. Now, this guy Marco Rubio, very smart man, but he's not mature yet. And Carly Fiorina, she's an employee, she's a CEO. She's fired more people, she's fired 40,000 people. You want her as president? We're already losing enough jobs. And this guy Ben Carson, he's a brain surgeon, a kid surgeon, you know. We don't need a brain surgeon right now. And Hillary Clinton, you know, she's a liar. So we don't want any more liars. And Jeb Bush, he's hopeless. So that's why I'm going to vote for Donald Trump, you know, because I'm afraid for him, though, because he's going to upset a lot of people. There's a lot of people in the Republican Party who would take him out. He'll die accidentally. That's my concern. We are not living in a safe world, and our enemies are not out there. In America, our enemies are at home. Does that make sense, you guys here? So I'll vote for Donald Trump, but I'm afraid for him too. But it's a big job. We need a tough person right now. This guy Obama, who's from Hawaii, he's a pothead. So, no, my friends went to school with him. They said he just walked around with a smoke around. So you can tell I'm not political. I'm not running for public office. That's why I'm an entrepreneur. If the United States kicks me out, I'll move to Estonia. I'll be quite happy here.
Yeah.
That's why you want to be an entrepreneur, is for freedom, not security. And Trump is a tough man. Putin is a very tough man. You know, so it would be Trump versus Putin. I think it would be a nice match.
And also, you know, we talk a lot about money, and money runs politics, like we all know. Well, the one thing I love about Donald is that he's not being bought. He's not raising money. He's not making promises to people in exchange for money. The only money in his campaign comes from him.
No. He says it best. He says, why did Hillary attend your wedding? He says, because I paid her to.
And that's what I mean. He paid her. They're not paying him.
He buys politicians.
Yeah.
And
he
and
cannot
he
be
openly
bought.
admits it.
But what else he's doing is he's bringing up issues because he doesn't care. He doesn't care what people think of him. So he's going to bring up the issues that he thinks are important. He is changing the fabric of this election. There's no doubt about it. No doubt about it. And I like actually what you say the best too. You said that, you know, all these politicians know how to spend money, but Donald's the only one that knows how to make money. And right now, we need people that know how to make money, not spend money.
Yeah, because he's an entrepreneur.
We'll see what happens. It's entertaining right now. It's definitely livened up the campaign. But of all of them, I mean, I think he would be he's our choice. So we'll see what happens.
And one more thing about financial education. The press is all over him because he went bankrupt 4 times. He went bankrupt corporately, not personally. And the average person doesn't understand that. See, as entrepreneurs, the odds are you'll go bankrupt. And that's why you've got to be smarter and stand back up. And employees don't go bankrupt. So there's personal bankruptcy and corporate bankruptcy. He went bankrupt corporately 4 times. We went bankrupt once. So of all the businesses, we had 27-something companies. Only 1 failed. But that bankruptcy is, well, we made a mistake. We end it. But the average person who doesn't know what bankruptcy is, oh, you know, he's a crook. But I don't know why Trump doesn't explain that. Carly Fiorina never went bankrupt because she's an employee. You know, Ben Carson never went bankrupt because he's an employee, the doctor. So that's what, you know, trust people understand. Speaking to you guys, you're going into a different world than your fellow friends who are bureaucrats and employees. It's a very tough game you're entering, but it's worth it, you know? It's worth it. It's the most fun. You learn to deal with crooks, scumbags, bastards, whores, pimps, and some of the best people on earth, which you guys are. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I will ask Christian to wrap it up. So thank you very much. Christian will wrap it up.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was very inspiring. Yeah.